So the way we got into debt, oof, man. So I had lost my job, and then my husband, he was in the process of going to school to become a firefighter, which is something he had always wanted to do, but also working with his family's company. And so we both worked for his family's company, and we just weren't making the kind of money that I was used to making in my career. I had left to just work for his family's company, and then came to a realization like, okay, you need to go back to corporate to make more money. And I think I'm going to go after my dream, which was to become a firefighter. So with that comes sacrifices, right? Number one, we worked for his family's company. So we were like renting a very, very, very small efficiency, as a way to kind of cheapen it out, like to try to pay our bills. But every now and then we'd have to get stuck and we'd use our credit cards. And so that eventually came into, yes, I got my corporate job, but then, I lost it. I think about 2 or 3 years into the job, we became jobless. And then he became jobless as well, because he was like, I'm going to leave my parents' job, because he was starting his firefighter career. So there was a gap where we both weren't working. I had to move back in with my mom. And so debt kept piling up. Like, okay, now we have no income coming in, and all of our savings had to be used up to pay certain grocery bills or do this or do that. And it just kept piling up. When we finally get back, and I got my job that I currently have, my husband finally got his job as firefighter, we had to move into my grandmother's house. And of course, we had no money. We had to kind of renovate it a little bit just to get it in rental status. And what happens? You use your credit card. So you got timeshares, you got credit card debt, then you have, bad luck with your job status, you lose it. You combine all these things, and we got to a point of like, oh my gosh, I want to say like $22,000, $23,000 in debt. Our credit score wasn't good. Our dream was to own a home. We have no children, so I have a very honest and very open about this, but we struggled with infertility for a long time. I still do. And so I'm like, thought of being even to afford IVF was just out of the question. It was around COVID. I lost my job just before COVID, but it did affect my husband because he was working in the process of getting hired as a firefighter, and then COVID hit. I think he was going through, his last set of firefighter classes, and they stalled it. Like I said before, my husband and I were always been pretty financially savvy and knowing certain things, and debt snowball, and he's like, let's just follow it. And so we just keep hitting at it and taking the biggest debt and rolling it into the other one. And he's like, debt consolidation was like, all taboo. You shouldn't do that because, interest, it's going to hit you with the interest that way. I always had that in the back of my mind. So when I found National Debt Relief, and then I saw the mission statement and how you guys go about it, I told my husband, like, look, let's just see, because we're up to our eyeballs. Like, we're never going to get to the point that we are. We're in our mid-30s at this point now. We've got to get through this somehow or another. So the rep was amazing, so kind, so nice. And they're like, look, we don't charge that interest. We make you a bank account where you build up the money and you just throwing your money that you were going to do anyway to try to pay off your debts. And once we get to that point, we start paying off some of these debts, and we'll work with them directly and get them to settle on a price. Like, you're trying to work, you're trying to do things, you're trying to do your everyday stuff. I think we had a total number of, maybe 8 companies that we had to figure that out with. Who has time to do that? Oh my gosh. I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, it's already happening. But, we were being consistent for a while, and I think it was like such a small one. So I was like, oh, yay, one's done, check. I am a list person. So when I get to check something off the list, it just felt so good. So even though I think it was like a very small one, I think it was like $800 or something like that. But I'm like, I don't care, it's done, check. And my husband laughed. He's like, that is your checklist mindset going off right now. I'm like, it is. And I cannot wait to get to the next one. My overall program experience was absolutely amazing. I recommend it. I recommended it to a friend. I think that a lot more people are in debt and they don't want to talk about it. It does. It has a negative stigma, and everybody thinks that we're perfectly normal. And I look and I can see it. I'm like, we're all struggling with debt in some way, shape, or form. We don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit how much it is. Whether it's $1,500 in debt, or 20 or more, or 50, everyone struggles with that kind of debt. And a lot more people, sometimes they're standing right next to you. And in my case, I had a really good friend where where she was struggling with it and she was ashamed of it. She's like, I don't even want to tell you, but like, I'm struggling through this. And I'm like, girl, we all are struggling through that. You are not the only one. And let me tell you my secret. So I shared National Debt Relief with her, and I said, it's a great program. Check it out if it's up to you, if you want to do it. But it really is such a great way to try to get out of what you're doing, get out of that mindset, that debt relief. And at the end of the day, too, debt is also a mindset, too. I think that, COVID really affected a lot of people. A lot of people lost their jobs. There's no shame with that. Like it is what it is. It happened. The world was on pause, including so many companies that had to let go of so many people. So life happens, and you can't be ashamed of that. Our credit score. So when it comes to our credit score at the time, I can't even tell you. I think it was in the 500s. I want to say at some point that I think it got to 515. And then once we got it paid and we graduated, our credit score didn't change from one day to the next, right? But we slowly started seeing it go up. We went from 515 to like 545, and then to like, oh my gosh, when I got to the 600s, I think I celebrated. I was like, look at us. And I think by the time we graduated, I think we were in the 600s, like 630, 635, 640, around there. And we knew, we're like, but look where we came from. And so now we had to do our best. This was the time that we got a reset button in a way, and we worked really hard to get out of it. So let's continue staying with that mindset. So my husband and I made a thing for us. I think as soon as we got out of it, we didn't have a credit card for a while. We lived on cash. What we have in the bank is what we pay for. We're not going to go on luxurious trips. Are we going to go enjoy ourselves, have vacation? Absolutely, on a budget-friendly way. And so we kind of did that for a while. We paid our rent, and slowly but surely we started seeing our credit go from 635, 640. And I was like, oh my gosh. We stayed at 645 for a while, and then I think we finally got to 700. When we got to 700, we then opened up our first credit card since getting out of debt. That was one of the lessons that we had with National Debt Relief. When you do, this doesn't mean you reopen credit cards during this time or anything like that. They're really good about teaching you all that. And so I said, let's just open up one card. And honestly, only one card accepted us anyway. We opened up the card and we're like, okay, now let's be consistent. Charge, pay off. Charge. And we did that just to kind of help boost our credit score a little bit more. And before you knew it, we were at 720, 721. And all of a sudden we started getting these amazing credit scores. And I'm like, this is fantastic. So financial life now is, wrapping our head around a mortgage payment. Honestly, I think that our financial life now is definitely, like I said, is staying smart about it. We knew we were going to take on a mortgage payment, right? So we're like, okay, let's be smart about like vacations and things like that. Like I'm a Disney girl. I love going. I'm from Florida. I love going to Disney. But maybe we don't go this year. We don't do the theme park this year, or I don't do that. So it's, makes us smarter in our decisions. Definitely, I think all of that has definitely taught us to be a lot more stricter, wiser, saving a lot more. I think that's one thing now. We get money, put it away for a rainy day. You just don't know. And I think that's one thing that we've learned from all of this experience is that's how they say save for a rainy day, right? Like save your money, put it in the bank. You never know. So now, especially that we own a house, we never know when something's going to break down. We just had to, we've only been a month in this house. We had to replace a dishwasher. Our experience with National Debt Relief, on top of just being in debt in general and all these other things, and to get where we're at, we're like, save and be smart. How are you going to spend that money? And it's not to say credit cards are bad, right? We have one now. And it's been super beneficial in the sense of, all right, let's charge, let's put, it helped us boost our credit score a little bit more, right? So I never want to say that, oh, don't ever own a credit card. No, you can, but pay it. They come with interest rates. Pay them. Pay them off before the end of the month. So I think that's one thing that we've definitely learned. Financially, we're so much smarter with everything that we're doing. We're big savers now. It's affordable. We closed this year of 2025, and it was a miracle because we got the dream that we wanted. We wanted the house, and we could never, like at 40 something years old and living in South Florida. So, we found like the dream house we wanted, like on the water, really pretty. And I have to say, like, we were able to do it because we got out of debt.